Welcome to another episode of Relentlessly Resilient, where real people share real-life experiences and the tools they develop to move forward and live their best life. I'm Michelle Scharf.
And I'm Jennie Taylor, and we are sitting in the KSL radio studio with one of KSL's own and the Bonneville family, Rebecca Cressman.
Hi, guys.
We're so excited to have you.
I'm such a fangirl of your podcast.
Oh, we're fangirls of you. Isn't that so great?
I've been over at FM 100.3 for 19 years.
Is that how long
which
it's
is
been?
a sister station of KSL Radio. Yeah, it's a long time. People are like, how long have you been there? And I say, 19 years. And they kind of go blanch, like, you must be in a
like,
rocket
has there
ship,
been
girl.
radio for 20 years? Well, we love running into you whenever we're here in studio. It's always fun. You're just such a lovely, energetic, and kind personality. We're just talking about how you're easy to talk to. You're fun to run into. You pick people up just by your very presence.
Oh, that's awfully
Absolutely.
nice.
It was funny because I had posted something on my Facebook wall and you came in to ask me about it. And I was like,
What?
she actually follows me.
This woman
I was a little bit
observes
starstruck.
I want to know about your dating life.
A little bit starstruck. I was like a little bit over. I'm like, oh, people are actually watching that? That's my personal
why would
wall.
you post
That ties so perfectly into resilience, because the truth is that when we have a network, no matter how close, like if we think of this big fish net and the people that are closest to us are like holding on the strongest, and then you have other layers going back, like if we are all some piece of someone else's support net, then we do better. And so like when you guys shared with me your stories of loss and grief a number of years ago when I interviewed you first and you were launching this podcast, then to me, I became part of that net, even though you guys weren't aware of it. I'm watching. Are they okay? What do they need?
That's so sweet.
But people do that.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump in there because I was telling Michelle offline. I remember you probably before you remember me. My husband first deployed to the Middle East in 2007. Nope, 2008. I'm wrong. I'm off here. So that's a long time ago now. 15 years or so.
Yes.
And I was what's called the Family Readiness Group Leader. I was the family support coordinator of activities for the families and care package organization and taking care of moms and wives and kids. And we had this fun care package drive across the state. And I had never done anything with the media. I had never done anything with the Army. I had never really done it was a new world to me. And I remember we needed help getting the word out. And I remember talking with you on your show a couple of times on FM 100.3. And you were just so lovely and kind then. So I became the fangirl then. And then as I watched you go through your personal journey that I think we'll talk about more today with your health and cancer and things, I remember feeling like, wait, I know her. I was part of that net, even if I was maybe on the outside and
But nobody's on the outside.
No, right,
really?
right. But we can be on each other's nets without having to be in each other's contact all day, every day. And now social media lets us stay connected to where without having seen you in person for years, I could watch that journey and feel connected to you. So I think that is a beautiful piece that we can maybe look at today.
Wow. And I'm sorry that chemo wiped out my 2007 memory of interviewing you in the past, because otherwise I would say you were so great.
I'm sure I was so great. I'm sure I was so great.
I'm sure she was. She's a natural.
No, I was a young new mom, new bride, new to the Army world. And I remember just being, again, it's just your voice is so kind. I never really even met you. I think we only talked on the radio, but I would send out a little press blurb and you would let me talk about it and get the word out. And we had a wonderful, successful care package drive for the troops that year. So thank you.
Well, fantastic.
15 years later, thank you, Rebecca.
Well, again, you are back to being one of those persons in a net for those who had loved ones being deployed. And that's what
that
role you're
me.
playing.
Me helping them helped me, right? Okay, so let's talk really fast before we jump into the whole thing.
Yeah.
How did you end up at FM 100.3
Well,
19 years ago? Tell us that backstory.
Well, so if we go back in 1832, so I was working in public radio. I also did television for a bit. And then I was living in Utah County and the phone rang once and it was Bonneville. And they said, we're going to launch a women's radio station and we'd like you to be the morning host of this. And I thought, I'm going to have to leave my job as a radio news director and TV news director. And I'm going to have to do this. This is a once in a lifetime. And
great opportunity.
Yeah. And they bought this little teeny AM signal and tried to make it work. And they're just, after a year, they pulled the plug because they just said the signal was too small. We weren't able to be successful with it in that year's time. So they said, but how would you like to stay and work for KSL News Radio? And I said, sure. So then I worked there for a bit. And then FM 100 said, but how would you like to come here And then that's how I kind of migrated over to
Okay,
FM
so anybody
100.
who's listening, maybe not from Utah or not familiar with the radio world, KSL News Radio, KSL TV, KSL Podcast. KSL is obviously a very big media station and channel here. And Bonneville is kind of the parent company,
That's
right?
right. And
so then you called
FM100.
FM 100 a sister.
Yeah, because it actually has been in existence longer than KSL Radio. FM 100 is a huge radio station with the largest listening audience in the area.
Oh my
It's a legacy station. So it just, you go from talking about news and serious things to playing music and making people's day. And that is a wonderful transition.
And we're getting closer and closer to Christmas. And you will play lovely, lovely
Yes.
Christmas music.
And Michelle,
So-
you'll be able to text me and say, I want to hear this Christmas song, and I'm going to play it for you.
Oh,
Do you
look
have
at
a
that.
favorite one?
Inside Scoop.
Oh, well, I'm a sucker for Silent Night. It is my favorite Christmas hymn,
Beautiful.
and no matter what version
Any
of
version.
of
Yeah.
that, any version. And I used to sing it as a lullaby to my children.
Oh, how beautiful. Okay,
Well,
now.
when the weather turns cold, we know Christmas is around the
Yeah,
corner.
and we're going to have her sing that lullaby. No, but
Yes.
I'll play that song
Okay.
for you.
Okay, we're going to still convince Michelle to work on that solo number we've got from Now Till Christmas.
I was
to do that.
impressed off air. I
Yeah,
mean,
it was-
she's really
She's
good.
working on it. We can't afford to pay her talent fee yet, and so as soon as we have enough
Talent
in the
talent
coffers,
agents are
her-
calling.
yes.
Michelle,
They're
we'd like to hire
You're
you.
not
They are
allowed
lying.
to.
This
you're
is
not allowed
not
to
a
sing on air for free, Michelle.
You know,
so-
we have the FM 100.3 Christmas concert series where people perform live
mall.
local. We could put Michelle on the stage.
Oh my gosh!
Can I be in charge of costumes?
People would run away. I finally did do my first karaoke this year. I was with a girlfriend. She convinced me to do it,
And?
we were quite entertaining. They let us sing 5 songs in a row.
Wow, that's a huge
It was
success. Was one of them Silent
it
Night?
was not good. It
That's
was
what makes good
entertaining.
karaoke. That is what makes good karaoke. Sometimes when you're karaokeing and someone sings really, really well, you're almost like, it's almost too good for karaoke because I want the karaoke of karaoke.
Right.
And that's
yeah.
not always the American
Yeah,
Idol version
no.
of karaoke.
But another good song is "Oh Holy Night." I love that song as well. I love the more kind of ballady Christmas
Yeah.
songs,
Sure.
but I do listen to FM 100 all the time. Like I wait for the day for it to turn on to Christmas, and then that's just my station.
There's something about like the ballads that bring us down in touch with our emotions, and it calms us too.
Yep.
And you know, music is like that, right?
Oh,
Whether
yeah.
it's the joyful songs that remind you of when you're little, and you're hoping for a tricycle, that Christmas song, you know, or whether it's reminding you of watching cartoons where you know Santa Claus gets stuck on a roof or whatever.
Yeah.
They all have these emotional touch points. All the different Christmas songs and songs in general.
Yeah,
Music can be
I would
so
say
powerful.
music in general. Yeah. You know, for me, there was a couple songs that when my husband was dying that I had not heard before, or at least maybe I just didn't hear the words.
Yeah.
But I was lying in bed with
Interesting.
my husband. There was 2 songs that have impacted me, and still to this day, it's hard to get through them. But Kane Brown's "Heaven."
Oh.
There's a lyric in the chorus of that song that's everyone's dying to get to heaven, but that's not where I want to be. Where I want to be is right here, lying next to you.
So evoking
Anyway.
like, I'm not ready to go. And
Yeah.
you know that that's how your husband felt.
And that's how he felt. And it was like, he's never going to, and he had been in this coma for like several days at this point when I heard the song. And I just started crying, and I looked at him and I was just stroking his face, and I was thinking, this is why this is your heaven. And I realized how much he loved me, and that he just didn't want to leave. And it was a few days after that I had a conversation with him that day, the day that he died, where I said, I need you to go. I need you to go. And I feel like he actually waited for that moment. The other song was, while I was being his caregiver, is Andrea Day's "Rise Up." Have you heard?
Oh
that?
gosh, yes.
Yes, that
it's one of
song.
my favorite songs ever.
Yeah.
I will rise up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was flat on a few notes there, but yeah.
That song was powerful, and it gave me the encouragement to rise up and continue to do this job. And actually, about a year after he died, during COVID, I guess it was like 2 years after he died, I was with a girlfriend in San Diego, and she noticed I was wearing a ring, and it said, "Still I Rise." And she said, "Tell me about that." And I told her about the song Rise Up. But
Yes.
it was really my message to me to still rise up after he was gone every day. And she encouraged me to get a tattoo. It was my first tattoo. It says, "Still I Rise."
Oh, I love that. And I actually love the idea of whether it's a tattoo or whether it's jewelry, something that reminds you to tap into your strength. Because that song, Rise Up, was a very emotional one for me while I was fighting cancer. And
really?
I would listen to it 3 or 4 times a week. And it just felt like I had to believe that the cells in my body were going to heal and that I was going to get my strength back. I was going to get my mind back. I was going to get my emotions back. Whatever that looked like, I was going to rise again. So it's a very powerful song, and that's really beautiful to me that it helped you in grieving.
Yes.
Rebecca, let's talk a little bit, since you've mentioned your cancer journey. Your cancer advocacy began long before you were ever diagnosed. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, FM100 had a partnership with Komen, so we did a lot for Race for the Cure then. Sometimes there'd be 16,000 people on the streets, and I'd be emceeing the front of it. And then my mom had breast cancer, and so then I became like the honorary Race chair for them because I was on air talking about both on television and on radio and KSL News Radio and other places about breast cancer, what we needed to know about mammograms.
And you were personally connected to it. You weren't just a hired voice for it. It had that personal.
Then mom passes away from cancer, which, and she didn't want to go. That is just so hard. So I'm so sorry that you had a loved one experience that, and to watch them experience fighting and trying to stay alive. It's pretty emotional. So I feel for that. And then I was diagnosed, she died in 2008, and I was 11 years later when I found stage 2B breast cancer in my body.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
Can you tell us, explain for those people that don't know, because everyone who's been through cancer learns the terminology for cancer.
Okay.
But those of us that don't know, like I know a lot about prostate cancer, but I don't know a lot about breast cancer.
Yeah. So what's interesting is oncologists typically want to know, all right, where is that cancer and how far has it spread? Mm-hmm. And they know that based on where it is and then how far it's spread determines treatment plans. Okay. So very soon after getting diagnosed with breast cancer, they said, okay, we are confirming that it's malignant carcinoma. Now we need to look to see how far it has spread. So they knew by the size of the tumor that there was a chance that it had spread further. Once a tumor gets to be, I think it's like 2 centimeters, there's a higher chance for it to start spilling out more of its cells and spreading. Right. So once you're at least 2 centimeters and larger, often you're given a stage 2. Not always, but off, that. So then once they did exploratory biopsy, they removed the tumor, and then they did a sentinel node biopsy, which they shot some ink in my breast tissue and followed like a tracer. Where did it go? And so they saw some lymph nodes that absorbed those and thought now those lymph nodes would be the most likely frontline soldiers to have absorbed cancer cells. Mm-hmm. So we're going to take those frontline sentinel lymph nodes out, and we're going to look under pathology. And so 2 of those had some cancer. One had a lot in it. One had very little. And so then they went, so there's a chance. So I got stage 2B because it had spread into the lymph nodes. And so that's kind of the staging. Stage 1 is local, just in one place, and fairly small. Okay. And actually begins, and I'll try to make it concise. Stage 0 means, hey, we found a cluster of cancer cells in your breast tissue.
I didn't know there was a stage 0.
They're
cancer cells.
Either.
Let's just imagine like a bunch of amoebas all at a party.
So not so much tumored.
Right. They're just a cluster.
Wow.
But so it's called stage 0, and they typically just either remove that surgically and no other treatment needed, or they'll say you could watch it if you want to see if it becomes a tumor. I mean, you can have that option. Wow. Some women will do that. And she was like, I don't want to, let's hang in there. So stage 0, cluster of cancer cells found. Stage 1, it's smaller than 2 centimeters, and it's just in one place. We haven't seen it when we do MRIs and stuff anywhere else in your body. And then stage 2, it's at least 2 centimeters in size, Or you got 2 1s, like you got multiple kind of smalls that go. So that might be stage 2. And then to B would mean it's kind of like a half, 2.5.
Yeah.
And then stage 3 would be in that local area, spread out kind of into the region. So now I'm pointing to my breast area, my lymph node area, and maybe my chest area. Or so that'd be stage 3, because now it's gone further. And, cancer is just a really naughty organism that tries to self-preserve. And so it fights and it takes advantage of the body's immune system, tricks it, and it allows itself to replicate and spread. So they know the higher the stage, the harder the fight. Stage 4 is it's not only in that local region area, it's spread throughout your bloodstreams. So you're now what's in that metastasized, metastatic breast cancer, MBC, which means it's probably in multiple places, from your lungs to your bones to your bloodstream, etc.
Okay, so I'm thinking this, obviously the goal then, of course, would be to never have cancer, or if you had to have cancer, you'd want to find it at stage 0 or 1.
That's it.
But when you've mentioned it as only cells, which I cannot see a cell or feel the size of a cell, even one
teeny little ones.
So the odds of you finding something at stage 0 or 1
are very small.
Even
you're not going to find
2.
it. Stage 0, you're not going to palpate it.
I remember a few years ago when my husband was still serving as mayor, and I went to a city council conference with him down in southern Utah. They had political meetings for the elected officials. They had some highlights of St. George area that they were showing to some of the spouses, and one of the places we visited was a cancer center. And I remember one of the people on the tour was asking one of the doctors, when are we going to cure cancer? When's the cure coming our way? And he said something that stuck with me. He said, I don't know if we'll cure it. Our goal is to get better at detecting it. If we can find it sooner, then we can treat it more efficiently, more successfully. How did you find yours? Because even stage 2 is still quite
small and
little,
and you would think, because I was a runner and I'm a walker now, but I was a runner and I wore sports bras all the time. It was just right at the base of my sports bra. I just didn't feel it, and it feels like a hard pee. So cancer typically,
and maybe the size of a pee.
And
That's
there's different kinds of breast cancer. Some of it is not in a cluster. Some of it is like invades the whole lobe, but most often it's like a hard dot, a hard ball that you kind of feel do that. I didn't sense mine, even though it was at the base of mine, because I knew I had family history. I was getting mammograms since I was in my 30s. And so
it was detected in a routine checkup.
That's right.
Wow.
Routine checkup. But in 1 year or so, it had gone from not being detected to stage 2B. So
right. And you're not going to get a mammogram every month just in case. I mean, that's not practical.
No.
That's crazy. So now let me ask you a more personal question. Your mother has passed away from cancer.
Yes.
And now you're diagnosed.
Right.
What is the mental process that you're going through?
Well, first of all, I felt sad for my mom. I know she's up in heaven and aware. She really wanted us not to have to go through this. So I'm sorry that she had to see me, even if she was from up above. But secondary was, there are a lot of advances that happen in cancer treatment every 5 years, somewhere around that. So I knew from my advocacy that there was new treatments that might be more effective for me. I also knew that there's a whole line of research about immune systems, and maybe my immune system is kind of faulty and just not good at fighting off. Maybe you've already created a rogue cancer cell, but your body knocked that out before it could grow.
Fascinating.
But maybe it's another area of research, of exploration. So I knew, okay, I need to go at this aggressively in treatment, because I saw my mom go through treatments as aggressively and it still came back. So for me, it was like, I'm going to lean in. And so when they say, well, you could or could not, you could radiate just a portion of your breast and not your chest. I'm like, do the chest. And they said, okay, you could skip chemo, but no, we're going to do the chemo. But chemo has its own, consequences that are harsh.
Awful.
Yes, for the rest of your life. But I'd rather live with some of those, neuropathy, et cetera, than not be here. And so I love life. Like I know both of your husbands loved life. And so I will fight to be here for my kids and for me. I will rise up. Yes. So I did the chemo and I did the radiation and I did the surgeries. And then a year later, it started to try to grow on the opposite side. So then I said, goodbye breasts. It was nice knowing you. Take them off me. They're obviously defective. And so I just had those removed and reconstructed about a year and a half ago from, from my own skin of my body and my own tissue in my body. Once you've had radiation, it doesn't do really well with implants.
Right.
Your body goes, I can't. The skin that's been radiated, not super good. So they said it'd be better to use your own skin and tissue. So they took some skin right around. In fact, they took my belly.
The science and the modern medicine of this is fascinating.
Well, if you think about electricity rewiring, so what they did is they took a hunk of my own skin and tissue from my belly, divided it into two, and patched that inside my empty skin after they'd removed the breast tissue.
Are you kidding?
And microsurgically attached vessel by vessel so that they'd get blood and then closed it up.
It's living tissue.
It's living tissue.
Oh, wow. I love
this.
this.
It's like a transplant.
Did you get like a tummy tuck out of it?
Well, I didn't get a muscle tummy tuck, but I did get some fat removed.
I love that.
It's kind of weird though because I've got a scar from one hip to another, and the belly button was gone, so they give you a new one, and everything looks really different down there.
You have an artificial belly button?
Yeah, and I have no sensory around my belly or tummy.
That's interesting. Yeah. So they rewired new nerves into
But the nerves didn't take. They're still working on getting the nerves activated.
Wow.
So yeah, the you could bump into me and I have no sensory.
It's funny. I had some eyelid surgery 10 years ago, and they're like, you may have some nerve damage or whatever. But if I scratch right here, I can actually feel it under my eye, which makes
the nerve
no
is
sense
down.
to me.
The nerve is down
That
there.
is so weird.
Yeah.
So some things are weird. Like our bodies are interesting.
And maybe if we have time in another segment, I'll talk a little bit about the grieving of your change of your physical body.
Yeah.
Because you have to get to know the new you. And it is a real loss. And people will say, oh, well, you got a tummy tuck, you got new breasts. Oh, no, it's not. It's not that. Yeah. I don't know who I am when I get out of the shower. That's not me.
Wow. Right, because it's not the way you were born. It's not accustomed to.
It's not the body I've been carrying with me. And I'm really grateful that I was comfortable with my body before. I never really grew up thinking that it needed to be idealized like a Barbie. I just needed it to be healthy and strong and be able to run and hike and, grew up really active in sports and all these things. And so I just was at peace with it, and so it was mine. Mm-hmm. It helped me do all these things that I wanted it to do. And then you go through chemo and you lose your hair and you're bald and then you have no energy and then your mind is foggy and then surgically, all of a sudden your body's changed and then you have no sensory in your breasts and you have, this stomach that you can't feel. And, and so you get out of the shower and you look and you go, where am I in here? And so you grieve that and you grieve the security that your body isn't trying to kill you. Before that, I wasn't thinking what could be happening deep inside me that is, possibly going to take my life prematurely. So you have to look and understand that and then take care of it. Mm-hmm. Try to find ways to take care of your mind and heart and emotions during all of that.
Well, you brought up something earlier, and I thought it was interesting. I have kind of a massage, home birth midwifery background, and you brought up I had to talk to my body and my cells to heal this body. That's a very holistic approach. Yeah. It's a mindful approach. Where did you learn that?
As an athlete.
As an athlete.
So I am treated at Huntsman Cancer Hospital. Mm-hmm. As soon as I got my diagnosis, I went into medical libraries, not just theirs, but others. I called laboratories. I wanted to make sure I had as much knowledge and information as possible. And they are extraordinary. So I do absolutely believe in their cause of treating ourselves with modern medicine when it but I also know that all those years playing shortstop or playing point guard or whatever position is, I had to do a lot of self-talk. You got this? Okay. Got it. You put remember you take your fist right into that mitt and you're there, and I'm ready for the next pitch, or I'm ready for the next hit. And I think that sports psychology hard well for me when it came to talking about my body, talking to it. You have the ability to heal. We can do this. We can get out. But I do, having been someone who ran a marathon, ran lots of half marathons, and then after chemo, not being able to walk around the block and being 3/4 of a round and having to sit on the ground, and I'll still cry and think, am I ever going to be able to rise up? Because you don't know until you experience healing how much you can heal. Mm-hmm. But we don't know how much we can handle of hardship until we go through it.
Right.
We didn't know that we could be a widow and be a leader and manage your children and still grieve at the same time. You didn't know that until you were forced to go through it. Mm-hmm. So,
okay, this is fascinating to me. I'm just kind of sitting here staring at you in the studio. I love
Sorry, I don't have any makeup on.
I love your humor. I heard a thing today.
Gorgeous. I don't know what you're talking about.
You need 3 bones in life. You need a wishbone, you need a backbone, you need a funny bone. And she's got all 3 right here, ladies and gentlemen. But I love your analytic approach to be able to say, I got diagnosed with cancer and I went to the library to learn about cancer. And that's a process of mine to say, I'm going to learn what I can. I'm going to be proactive in my care. For you to say, hey, give me every kind of chemo, radiation, modern medicine, and the holistic side of it. That's very holistic. It's holistic within being holistic, right? It's not holistic to the exclusion of modern medicine.
I learned meditation.
All of it.
I was like, I need to obviously help my body through this. So but meditating's hard to learn how to do. So just saying.
Yeah, it's a practice.
Especially when you're a runner and
you don't learn meditation, it's a practice. Yeah, you don't. Yeah. And that's the frustrating part for people when they start meditation.
It's not working.
They're like, it's not working. I can't do it. I can't quiet my mind. It's a practice. It's
people
a practice.
Like
so once you've practiced it before you need it, then it's there as a tool for you to deploy when you're really stressed, right?
Yeah.
It seems to me grief of any kind, it seems to play like a magnifying glass. We've talked about this where your weaknesses become very, very apparent. Things you struggled with might be more of a struggle, but those strengths and experiences you have can also come to the forefront where, who knew your time as an athlete would then help you in your battle with cancer. And someone else's time with whatever they've gone through might be the tendencies. I've looked back at my life, some of the things that maybe I've tripped over myself. I'm kind of assertive. I'm kind of type A. There's some of these things I've kind of apologized for my whole life. They actually came in pretty handy when trying to fight my own battle of loss and things. So I'm just sitting here in admiration. Okay, so wishing we had hours and hours more, and maybe we can have a follow-on conversation later. Can you just tell us, without speaking for your family, what's the family resilience like in a situation like this?
Oh, wow. Now, that is a really big question because that all depends on the individual within your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if the individual in your family already struggles being with depression or struggles with anxiety or struggles with the fear of a loss of you or whatever it may be, those things that are theirs
the magnifying glass
are really highlighted. And so my family, my sons were extraordinary. They were, can we come with you to chemo? Can we record the appointments for you? When I was having surgery and I woke up speaking Spanish and I was crying because the lady and the nurse keeps yelling at me, speak English. And I said to my son, she's telling me. And he said, it's because you're speaking Spanish. And I said, oh, okay. He's like, flip to English. You'll be good to go. And my husband was tender. Like I'm very lucky. I have 3 grown sons and daughter-in-laws that were loving and supportive. I had a neighborhood that even on one of my morning surgery days, leaving at 4 a.m., I drive in the dark around the corner and there are easily 60 people from my neighborhood in the dark wearing T-shirts that are pink that say Team Rebecca with signs saying, you've got this, we love you. So I was so fortunate to have its support in place to help lighten my load. And I'll never forget that image because it was dark. And in the darkness, it reminded me there are people.
Even in the darkness.
There are people even in the darkness.
Wow.
You got to believe that they need you, that they want you, that they're going to fight for you.
They're fighting with you.
And sometimes you have to call them and tell them what you need, but they're there. In the darkness, you just got to find them, right? It's a blessing.
Rebecca, what does resilience mean to you?
Resilience means not having to reach a perfect state of managing everything again like you might have as an ideal. Resilience means as difficult things come, you marshal the tools and abilities you have, the people and resources that you can find, and then you move forward and know that you're going to change and learn, and that is part of life. It's a beautiful, but painful part of life. That's what resilience looks to me now. It might have looked different to me 20 years ago when I idealized how I needed to be perfect in every area or whatever it might be. Resilience, the humans are just extraordinary what they will manage and push through. But we do on our own can't always be as resilient as we need. We need to look, what's the healthy way for me? Learning meditation, making sure I don't have substance dependency issues, making sure I have healthy people in my life. It's a conscious map that you move forward on until you're able to kind of independently do well on your own, at least in my opinion.
I love that. That's
so beautiful.
It was long. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
It was power-packed.
We really appreciate having you here, and we would love to have you back on. There's a lot of areas that we could cover with you. And
it was my honor and privilege. I love and admire both of you. And for anyone who's listening to this podcast who has had grief and loss, my heart is with you.
Well, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be able to do this and to meet the people that have come on and shared their stories. It's so amazing. And
may I just insert one thing?
Yeah. If
If there's anyone who's dealing with breast cancer or diagnosis and you want someone to talk to, you can email me at rebecca@fm100.com. If you're in Utah, I'll drive to your house. Or you can, we'll text. You're not alone. So let's make sure that you know that, rebecca@fm100.com.
Oh, that is such a beautiful offering. Oh, yeah. I'm going to cry. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for coming on our show. We really appreciate it. And for our listeners, if you've liked what you heard today, you can subscribe, give us a like, a rating, and a review. It really helps us come up in the podcast. I don't know what
global
they call
universe
it.
or whatever.
The global universe. Yeah, I don't know. But if you know someone who has a story that you think could help others, or maybe you have a story that you'd like to share yourself, you can contact us either by going to our Facebook page at Relentlessly Resilient or on Instagram at Relentlessly Resilient Podcast. And there's a little box you can click on and you can schedule a 15-minute call with me, and I would love to talk to you, listen to your story, and see if it's a good fit for our show. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca.
Thanks for letting me meet the women that I love and adore to listen to.
You can just hear the sincerity in her voice, right? It's just, it's kind of like just smooth. You're not alone. I love that. I think we'll close on that. And to everyone who's listening, please, whatever you do today, remember to be kind. You have no idea the struggles others are dealing with in their lives. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.